The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service presents Let's Talk Finance, a feature exploring the various elements of the economic program.
Welcome again to Let's Talk Finance here on Nationwide 90 FM. My name is George Davis. Today we're going to talk about a very important entity which celebrates its 20th anniversary. It's this year. It's the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, the JDIC, founded in 1998. The same year, Jamaica made its debut at the FIFA World Cup. That was in France, and 2018, the year that France won it for the second time, this time in Russia. So a lot of major events bookending the history of the JDIC so far. And it's my pleasure today to be speaking with the Chief Executive Officer of the corporation, Ms. Antoinette McKain. Ms. McKain, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Davis. We think this is very important that your listeners do get an understanding of the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation and the work we have done over the past 20 years and the benefits that the public have from our operation. So we're very happy to be here.
Yes. The concept of deposit insurance, of course, came out of the experience the United States had with the Great Depression in the 1930s. And since then, many countries around the world, at the last check over 114 countries, have bought into the deposit insurance concept and have implemented some form. If I may ask you, Ms. McKain, to reflect on the 20 years that the JDIC has existed and what it has accomplished over that time.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd just like for your listeners to know that your facts are correct. So that's a good setting for us. And if you recall, in the 1990s, Jamaica had a financial system crisis where a lot of our banks failed or they were failing. Mm-hmm. And the government of Jamaica had to step in and take action to protect depositors. But it did cost the country a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And impacted us adversely given the debt that we had to carry after that. So quite correctly, the policymakers at the time decided that to enhance our financial system and to ensure that the country can deal with a financial crisis, because we know these will occur.
Yes.
Because just to say that financial institutions are commercial ventures and we want them to remain that way. So in the cut and thrust of commerce, the economy can impact these institutions, bad management can impact these institutions.
Yes.
And so there is always a possibility for failure. But what the public policy makers at the time said, well, if it does occur again, we need to be ready. Mm-hmm. So we need to be prepared to have the system, the mechanisms, and the funding to be able to protect, in particular, our smaller, more vulnerable depositors. Mm-hmm. Because small, vulnerable depositors are who make up the majority of customers of financial institutions. And if they run on the bank because they're not confident that they'll be repaid,
yes.
If they hear a rumor that their financial institution might be bad, yes. Or if the financial institution is in fact bad and will close, the impact on them is so great that they will run on the banks and potentially even cause a bank that might not have been in problems to go into problems,
yes.
Simply because of what they believe. So the deposit insurance scheme was set up to provide depositors with that level of confidence that if in fact your bank does fail, you will be paid out on your deposit. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it's really for the smaller, more vulnerable depositors. And so the deposit insurance scheme was set up. Yeah. In 1998, it was established under a law. So that's very important. Yes. So it has the force of law. Mm-hmm. So we must pay out depositors if their bank fails.
Yes. So you know, the insurance, of course, is something that, as the Americans would say, I don't like to quote the Americans, but here you go. You fit it and forget it. It's there somewhere. So 20 years deep into this marriage between the JDIC and its various publics it serves on behalf of the Jamaican government, what sort of reassurance does the JDIC, you believe, provide for the depositors who are subscribers to the scheme, especially those MSME players that you spoke about, knowing that it has been there for these 20 years? Does that give them the kind of assurance that was intended at the outset of the corporation coming into being?
Yes, we believe that it does. And in fact, if you look at the financial system for the past 20 years, our financial system has been resilient for the past 20 years. So JDIC is just one part, one arm that allows that resilience. Because, there is the regulation by the Bank of Jamaica. There's also regulation of non-deposit taking financial institutions like your insurance companies and securities firms and your pension funds by the Financial Services Commission. So these two institutions, along with JDIC, we are what is called the financial system safety net.
Yes.
And JDIC does public awareness surveys periodically. So we wait a few years before we do one, because when you implement something, it takes a few years for it to set in, for people to understand it, for people to believe it. Yes. So our surveys are showing that Jamaicans are more confident with having the deposit insurance scheme in place. And it's a scheme. So we help with monitoring the performance of financial institutions. The Bank of Jamaica regulates them and goes in to do examinations, and we receive that information, and we also use the external environment and what we call off-site monitoring, and we put that together with the Bank of Jamaica information. So, and we monitor also the performance of financial institutions. We monitor them for risk, so that we can use that information and determine how much deposit insurance funds should we have? How much should we keep? Because on the one hand, these funds are levied, these funds come from levies on the banks. And on the other hand, you want to protect people. But so you don't want to take too much funds from the banking system. That is unnecessary. So if the risk in the financial system is low, there is always some risk, is low, and financial institutions are performing well. And as well, the regulator system, the financial safety net partners like the BOJ, the FSC, and the JDIC are performing well and doing their jobs. You want to make sure that you just have an optimal amount of fund available, so that banks and financial firms, they need those monies to make loans to people. So we don't want to take too much from them. But at the same time, if they fail, the financial firms fail, the impact on our economy is so great that, and we've experienced it in the 1990s, so that we still have to have a system in place to deal with those failures that might occur in the future.
There's an ever-present risk of toxicity spreading through the financial system and the economy.
And there's a lot of innovation now because of digitization. So, and you want innovation in your financial system, but at the same time, it brings risk as well. As our economy is improving. Slowly, but it's improving. So we're going in the right direction. That's great. People will also do innovative things. They want to enter new businesses and so on, which also increases risk in your economy.
I'm thinking back to 98 at the advent of the JDIC, and of course I can recall the jingle in my head, JDIC, protecting depositors for you and me. Beyond that, beyond the jingle, if I were to ask, of course, you're CEO. You've been so since 2007. Correct. So, along with yourself, the persons who manage the JDIC, I'm not sure Jamaicans are aware of that. Is it that you have a board that supports you and your management team? How is that board comprised? What's the management structure?
Yes. And that's so important, because the question is so important, because we know that corporate governance is the bedrock of the sound performance of any company, whether it's a private sector company or a public sector company. Good corporate governance is the bedrock of it. So under the statute that created the JDIC, that is the Deposit Insurance Act, there is a board of directors. The board is a 7-member board. 3 of the members are what are referred to as ex officio members. That is, they are members by virtue of the office they hold. So, for example, the governor of the central bank is a member of the board, is ex officio. The financial secretary is ex officio, a member of the board. And the CEO of the JDIC is a member of the board. There are 4 other members that are appointed by the minister
Yes.
One of those 4 is appointed the chairman, and those are the private sector members.
Yes.
And the boards have served JDIC well over the period of its existence. They have been properly, the selection has been good.
Yes.
And they have really given sound oversight to the JDIC.
Yes.
So that's that level of management governance
Yes.
has been key to JDIC's performance.
Yes.
As well, there is the CEO of the JDIC, which is me for the time being.
Yes.
And we also have an executive management level, and we work together. That is myself as CEO and the executive management as a committee of management. And the committee of management, it's configured such that we have expertise on financial matters. We have expertise on resolution, what we now refer to as resolution of financial institutions. That's much for the public. I'll just say trying to fix the institution when you know it's going bad, so that it doesn't create a big problem.
But you are an attorney at law by training, correct?
Yes, by training.
So is it that the person who holds the office of CEO of the JDIC would necessarily have to have that kind of training in order to be able to function in the office?
No, you don't have to be a lawyer to function as the CEO of JDIC. So I think it would be very arrogant to say that.
Not arrogant, because it may be that given the various issues that abound and which can arise,
of
that
course.
you'd want someone guiding affairs from the management perspective who has that kind of training,
knowledge.
tactical know-how to be able to guide things in a particular way.
Absolutely.
Especially because you stressed the point just now of resolving and trying to fix things. So and a person
Absolutely.
that kind of think would be best suited to do
Right.
so.
So on the team,
Yes.
on the management team, I was saying we had finance, we have resolution of financial institutions. We also have our general counsel.
Yes.
So there are more than one lawyers going
Yes.
on. And as well, we have our corporate communications, which is so important.
Yes.
Because, what they say about financial systems, it's just what people perceive it is.
Yes.
So even if it's not so good, if people perceive it to be good, it will remain viable. So we have those disciplines on the team, and they're technical persons. So yes, if you wanted an answer to who should lead an institution like the JDIC, and for that matter, other regulatory agencies, are persons who have technical competence.
There you go.
That is what I would say. As to the actual specific discipline, I would not.
That's not necessarily
I
important.
would weigh in on that.
Here's the thing. All right. So we're going to do a next program, a second program next week, where we're going to deal with the very important issue of how you become a member of the corporation. Is it automatic that if you have over a certain amount of money in an account in a commercial bank, you are automatically a member? What accounts for the ceiling that you set on the amount recoverable from an account in case something goes wrong, and how that squares with what other countries, especially in the EU and the UK, if we use that, UK, EU, you have to separate them. Brexit is on, isn't it? The EU and the US, what they set as their deposit limit, and how that squares with what Jamaica sets as its own. But that's for part 2 next week. I want to end part 1 this week, Ms. McKain, by asking you this question. In the 20 years the JDIC has existed, what is the single most point of value that you think it has provided to the financial system and by extension the economy?
Yes. The single most and the most important thing
Yes.
we believe for a financial system is confidence, trust, and that we've provided. Because, even money, the fiat currency that we use, is really just backed by trust.
Yes.
So that thing called trust and confidence in a financial system is key to the soundness of the financial system. And I think we have contributed to that. We have been the face to people. Our public education program has also been, I would say, that is what has allowed us to feed that confidence. So that would be the single most important thing, I think. And I mean, there are other important things, and that is also the level of coverage that we offer.
Yes.
That is $600,000 per depositor, per institution. And what that means is very important when I say per depositor.
Yeah.
What it means is that as a legal person, An individual is a legal person, a company is a legal person, a trust is a legal person, and joint ownership of something is legal. So anybody who owns property, real estate, understands that concept that a legal person comes in different forms.
Yes.
Right? So JDIC provides deposit insurance to those 4 categories of legal persons.
Before you go further with that, that's what we're going to delve into in the second installment. So
Yes.
let's call time. Let's draw stumps right here as if we were playing cricket, and to say we'll be back next week with another installment of the JDIC. Its work, its celebration of 20 years of existence, and the very important layer of confidence that it adds to the financial system and by extension the Jamaican economy. Antoinette McKain, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was Let's Talk Finance, brought to you by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.